August the 1st, 2020. So today I figured I would show you one of my favorite apps, which is a really powerful DAW called Beatmaker 3. Now I started with Beatmaker Run around 2007 and moved to 3. I never really used Beatmaker 2, so I can't really tell you the optimal changes that they made between 2 and 3, but between 1 and 3, phenomenal changes. So today we're gonna look at the basics. I decided that what we'll do is at the beginning of each month, we'll do a Beatmaker video. That way you can practice during the time that we don't go over it, and you could probably come back and teach me some stuff and vice versa. So we'll start today with the very basics. Next month we'll get into making a beat, probably a very simple one, using samples. So if you want to hear a particular sample being played with, you could always drop it down in the comments, and that's what we'll work with. And going on and going forth, we'll just keep on building from what we're learning together until we don't have nothing else to work on. So that could be forever, because this is limitless, of course. So the first things first is when you turn on Beatmaker 3, you're greeted with this screen right here. This is your welcome screen. You'll notice on the left-hand side, there's new session, open session, and quick start guide right here. So we'll start from the bottom up since we're working on a new session in this video. The quick start guide, which is here. The quick start guide is just where you'll see all your Beatmaker documentation, how to get started, tips, and the instruction manual. I have to be honest and tell you, I've never read any of that, so I can't really get into the specifics of it for you. Open session is pretty self-explanatory. Your saved work can be opened by clicking on this option, and then new session, of course. But before we get into that, let's definitely take a look at the bottom, because you do have a couple of options there. You do have recommend to a friend and visit the sound store. Now, let me just say real quick, let's click on this. Once you get Beatmaker 3, I do recommend visiting the sound store. The sound store is where you're going to find beat packs, and Beatmaker 3 is actually called units, but you'll find the kits here. And they're all pretty reasonable. They range from free to $6.99, I believe, or actually $9.99. I think there's a couple that are $9.99. But we could take a look at some of the packs so you can see exactly what you would be looking at. So I'm gonna scroll up to Beatmaker 3 Starter Pack 2. This is actually a free kit, so one of the free kits that I really like. So when you click on it, it does tell you what's in it. They're usually more detailed, but since this is a free one, it's pretty much just letting you know it's a welcome kit to help you get started. Contains a variety of instruments and kits. What I love about picking a beat pack from Beatmaker is that you can actually click on it and the demo will play all of the sounds. So I love that, because you really get to hear what you're purchasing and what sounds are included in the pack. So that I really enjoy. So let's click out of here. And when we click out of here, the first thing you're gonna notice is that we're in a new session. So obviously, if you're not familiar, the first thing that stands out for you is pads. Pads, pads, pads. Now this could be a little intimidating if you don't really use pads, but the more you get into Beatmaker, the more you'll realize that pads are kind of your best friend. So let's start by getting some familiarity with the toolbar. So on all of the screens, you're going to have pretty much the same toolbar here. So going from left to right, you have your beats, which of course breaks down your beats and bars, and you can change it to whichever is better for you. Those are the same throughout all DAWs that you use. So it's the same here as well. Next to that, you're going to have your tempo. Tempo is actually a whole menu. So once you click on it, you'll see that it provides you with being able to adjust everything. And you can use a stylus or your finger. I found this stylus, so I'm using the stylus, but you can go left and right, up and down, whichever you prefer in terms of changing your tempo. Next, after that, you have tap. With the tap, it's just in order to tap you into your beats. So you'll click that if you want to tap into your beats. Underneath that, you do have your signature, of course, your time signature, 4/4, etc. You should all know about that. Underneath, you have your global swing, your swing ratio, and your swing sync. So let's go ahead right now. We're gonna adjust this to 75 beats per minute, even though we're not making a beat today. I typically make my beats in double time, and so using 75 beats per minute actually works for me. Now, the good thing about this beats per minute is that you can actually hit ×2 and it'll automatically take it up there for you. The same, of course, in hitting 1/2. I enjoy that. It's a very, very small feature that you can adjust, but it's probably one of the dopest, smallest features that you don't realize you need until you have it. So for me, I love that. Right next to your beats per minute and whatnot, you'll see the Q, which is quantized. In terms of quantize, and for the sake of the video, we're gonna leave all of these settings the same. Note on is gonna stay on, note off is gonna stay on. Your sync is at 1/16, which is standard if you're working in double time because it's typically 1/8. And I leave the pre-roll to 1 bar, which is located here in case you're wondering where we are. But I use the pre-roll to 1 bar because that's the lowest that it goes. And I don't really like count-ins, but the pre-roll it'll count you in however many bars that you prefer. And I think 4 is the highest, but 1 is the lowest. So I leave it at 1 because I don't like it anyway, and I can't change it to 0. So next to that, we have automation. I do not use automation unless I'm working with a plugin or a beat pack from Beatmaker 3. In that case, I do use them a lot. I use it a lot, quite frequently, actually. So continuing down the line, we have everything that's pretty much standard. That's gonna be, you know, your stop, your play, your rewind, fast forward, your records. Also your loop is here, your undo, redo, and your save. I do use redo and undo a lot. Get familiar with those, they will save your life. So let's get started. On the left-hand side, group together, right here, these are actually your view modes that you can see right here. So this is where we are now. We are going to go down and take a look at a couple of the modes. One of the ones that we'll be working in will be, let's start actually with this one. This is probably not called this, I have no idea, but I call it the track mode, mainly because at the bottom here, it does say, I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can, but it says track automation. So I leave it here. In this particular screen, you can actually add tracks, you can delete tracks, it'll show what you already have listed, and it'll have your main out. So this is your auxiliaries as well in here. The great thing about this is totally off what we're talking about, but kind of in line with it. But with your main out, you can actually add effects to it in Beatmaker 3. Normally you do it on your other tracks and then your main out plays that back, but you can also add them on your main out here too, which is crazy. So below the track view, which is what we're in now, you'll see the mixing view, which is here. I really like the mixing view. As you can see, it's typical, it's very simple, but I still love it. What I really love about the app itself though, is they really didn't miss anything. On the bottom right hand side of the screen, you can see 3 dots. Hopefully you can see that on my screen. But on the 3 dots, when you click them, it actually goes over your classic coloring, your metering, which is peak or RMS, and your channel size. So let's first start with the colors. That's self-explanatory. You can change your colors. The channel size you can make normal. This is small right here. This is normal, or you can have it large. So that gives you a great view for being able to edit and whatnot. I typically keep it on normal. But let's talk about metering mode. In metering mode, again, you can go to peak or RMS. I don't want to get too heavy into that, but I guess I'll go over it just a little bit for those who don't know. So like the difference between peak and RMS is that RMS, which basically stands for root mean square, it means the highest sound that your wave can go. So it's like the mountaintop. Like if we had a mountaintop, the peak of that mountaintop would actually be RMS. That's the highest it could go. Whereas the phrase peak itself is, it's the maximum sound power that your wave will ever get. meaning it's how powerful it'll sound continuously throughout versus peaking at certain spots. So I'm not gonna get too deep in that, but if that's something you wanna know about, I would definitely recommend Googling it. Probably explain it much more than I did. But both settings are for metering, and that's about it right there. So we can actually close out of that. So let's get back to track mode. So in track mode, again, you have the option of adding your tracks here, or you can switch to pad mode, which in Beatmaker 3 is so much easier because this app is designed for use on your iPad. So even the way the pads are set up is just much easier for you to be able to use. It's very user friendly. Now, we're gonna end this video here, but I want you to keep in mind that there are no sounds here. You have no sound. The internal sounds are really good, but the banks are amazing as well. So we're gonna use some of the banks and maybe a couple samples in the next video, and we'll go over more detail of each screen as we're working with it. But I hope this at least gets you started, gets you a little familiarity with what's going on in Beatmaker 3. If you like this or have any suggestions or any comments, please drop them down in the comment section below. Feel free to subscribe, like this video, tell your friends, all that good stuff. And we'll be back next month to get really into Beatmaker, and let's start making some beats. Thanks for watching.